You all. Catherine, let's start with you. A federal judge has just ruled, as I understand, that the Trump administration cannot deport non-citizens to countries that are other than their place of origin without due process. Is that correct? And what kind of impact could that have?
Yeah, that's right. A U.S. district judge has just ruled that, Jay, that they cannot deport non-citizens to, as you just note, other countries other than their place of origin without due process. And look, we have been covering a lot of this immigration litigation across the board, various different federal judges issuing certain rulings as it relates to deportations, the ways in which non-citizens can or cannot be deported. But the reality is the administration so far, in some cases, has been ignoring some of those judges' orders. So how this will play out is a bit uncertain. But really what it does, what the ruling from this judge does, is throw a roadblock in the Trump administration's policy of removing non-citizens to countries like El Salvador, Honduras, Panama, for example, even if the non-citizens lack an order of removal to those countries. So they must have, of course, due process. Before that, this came obviously from the most recent ruling from a federal judge, and it frankly is just the latest one in many court cases that we're seeing play out across the country related to the Trump administration's immigration policy.
Yeah, and worth noting, some of the people deported to that prison in El Salvador are Venezuelan nationals. But in this case, Aileen, Kilmar Abrego Garcia is Salvadoran, but also a court had ruled that he was not to be deported to El Salvador. So help us make sense of any potential impact, not just this ruling could have on the case, but just also the legal state of play in this case in general.
Yeah, I think what happened to Kilmar Abrego Garcia is a terrifying reminder of the blatant abuse of power and just recklessness and just complete chaos under the Trump administration. Every American should be concerned. Yes, many Americans are concerned about immigration. They have deep concerns about the border. But this case in front of us is not a question about immigration or deportations at all. It's a question about whether we are a country that respects the rule of law and due process or not. You know, when the Trump administration or any administration for that matter can take a father away from his wife, away from his children, and deport him to another country, imprison him in a maximum security prison without due process, that's a terrifying reality that we need to think about. Anyone who looks at this case and thinks this is about immigration is really missing the bigger picture. This is, you know, the Trump administration has already floated the idea of sending American citizens to El Salvador. American citizens have already been detained under Trump's immigration theatrics. So we really have to protect the due process and the rule of law. It protects us all. And when we allow a president to ignore our rights that are given to us in our Constitution, we lose the very protections that make America possible. So the line has been crossed, and we really can't stand for this.
So, Selena, we know that Kilmar Abrego Garcia met with Maryland Senator Chris Van Hollen yesterday. What more do we know about that meeting, and what is the White House saying about it?
Yes, we have limited details about the meeting so far, but a source close to Abrego Garcia's family says that it was actually the president of El Salvador who organized that meeting, despite the fact that the president of El Salvador, Bukele, as well as President Trump, they've both made clear that they have no intention of returning Abrego Garcia. Now, Senator Van Hollen, he did make a post last night after the meeting saying that he passed along a message of love to Abrego Garcia's wife. You played that soundbite earlier at the top of this segment where Abrego Garcia's wife, Jennifer, expressed just this roller coaster of emotions and just overwhelming emotion just to know that he's currently alive. Now, Abrego Garcia is going through this as the president of El Salvador had posted that now he's been confirmed healthy. He gets the honor of staying in El Salvador's custody. Now, President Trump, we heard him today at the White House claim that he is a violent gang member, despite the fact that he has no criminal convictions. A federal appeals court yesterday as well slamming the actions of the Trump administration, saying that this isn't really about whether or not he is a violent gang member. The point here, and what we've been talking about in this segment, is that he was not granted due process.
Selena Wang, Catherine Falders, Aileen, thank you all very much for your time.